Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Um, Today we have several different topics for our CBO Technical Assistance webinar. I'm going to have Dee start out with just any updates, any questions you have on the conciliation process. I know there's a few things that have been going on, and Dee's been working on following up on some of those questions. Then we're going to take a look at the ISTEP and some of the system updates that we'll be making to help better document the, where your customers are in the process. And then Tammy is going to talk about the GRS and the DGR information. So did you want to go ahead and get started, Dee?
Sure. I'm going to pull a screen over, and we'll send these notes out. We've kind of decided that we're going to start using the message system to our advantage, and so Olivia put together a great review of what we did with the DHS Technical Assistance webinar, and then the recording on the partner resource page. So I think I'm glad to see that she's on the webinar today so that she can do that for us for the CBO technical assistance. So I know that we've had some issues with some of the conciliation process because people either A, don't show up, or maybe they show up, they get started in training, and then all of a sudden they disappear. So we went to the DHS source and we discovered some of the different things. I am looking for a little bit more confirmation from Alan Summers, who is in charge of the DHS process right now. In the conciliation process, there's 2 links on this page, or on this note here, and we'll include this information into the message that we send out as follow-up. But under the conciliation section of the DHS pages, they're in their procedures pages, sorry. They talk about what you can do with the conciliation. And what we need to do is we need to be able to follow the process that the DHS system wants so that we can make sure that the customers are being taken care of. What it all boils down to basically is that when somebody doesn't show up, you need to case note it immediately in the customer's case notes. Then you need to fill out a 2846G so that it gets sent to the person. So right here it says notify the FCRC within 30 days of the non-cooperation. So if they don't show up one day, and they might be sick, they just couldn't call. Whatever your process would be, if they don't show up for 3 days in a row, then you're going to case note that in Epic. Then you're going to follow by sending a 2846G, and I'm trying to highlight this right here, is sent to schedule a conciliation meeting. Then there's also the Form 3392 that can be found. We'll add that to our list of documents. But that is all that is doing is explaining these reasons down here that are the good cause, good faith reasons. So that's just that information right there. So then what you need to do is either the person shows up for the meeting and you figure out why they were missing or whatever happens. Maybe they come back in on the 4th day and you've already started this process. Then you can always recall the 2846 by adding another case note into the system. Then at the end of that 30 days, or if they don't show up at their conciliation appointment, you submit a 2151A right here so that they end up being requested for sanction. But if you have not completed the 2846G, and if you have not made the phone calls and tried to schedule with them, then it just delays the process further. Now, what I am trying to clarify is how many times you have to try to reach out to that person before the process is considered over. And that's what I'm looking for clarification on from Alan Summers. And I sent him an email but have not received a response from him. He's a very busy man, so I'm not sure that I will hear back from him today or even tomorrow. But we will alert you, and we will include that in a follow-up webinar so that we know the process. Do we have any questions from the audience about this? We will include all of this information in our follow-up document that goes out to you, everybody.
But I just want to clarify, and maybe you already said this and I missed it. They only do this after they've already been enrolled into the program.
Correct. That is correct. If it's before, and I wanted to make that point too. If somebody does not show up, they never ever show up, the responsibility is on DHS for them to continue the conciliation process from their end if they never ever show up. But they need to know that they never ever showed up. So first of all, we're going to reiterate with DHS that they need to select a primary contact. But it is incumbent upon you as the CBOs to upload that 2151A and send it via message and email. Make a note. You might be uploading that document, but that DHS case manager is not going to see that unless you send a case note that indicates that you've sent them a message and an email. And let me show you on the dashboard. So I'm going to bring my screen over. And if I go to an enrolled person, 2151 is past due. So if I want to select one of these people, I go to their progress page. Test is taking just a couple of moments here. I go to their progress page. I will have uploaded the 2151. So if the process becomes that I have to download it first and then upload it, marking it that there was no contact, that's what I do. So I download it, I mark there was no contact, then I upload it here. But then what I also need to do is go up here to the person's case notes, add a case note, and say no contact from customer. Please begin your process. And then send it as a message and an email, and to the eligibility review team and the DHS primary contact. So it's going to be the caseworker and the primary contact, because that might possibly be two different people. So that means that there's a good chance that two people will see this message. Then you just add that case note, and then if by chance you do get in touch with the person or they call you or show up or whatever, then you can always say, oh, customer called us. We're good. They're coming in, blah, blah, blah day. All right, so that's that. After they show up for training and they begin the training process, then you have to follow that conciliation process that we talked about earlier. Okay, I'm going to minimize my screen here and move it over. And then I'm going to minimize this. Olivia, if you can grab these notes here to add to that message later, I would appreciate it. Okay, next up we have Natasha,
Yeah.
we're tag teaming you today.
Okay, so one of the things that we wanted to cover today, we've had some questions about the models, primarily from the DHS staff, because they have to identify, what is a Model 1, Model 2, Model 3, whenever they do that in their initial eligibility review. And so the descriptions for the Model 1, Model 2, Model 3 are in the EPIC Procedures Manual. But we did get further clarification on, how to define those models. So I want to go over that just briefly. But one of the things, and I just want to, we're going to go over it really briefly, and I'm going to point out a few important things to note, and then Tammy or Dee, jump in and, cover, point out some other important items if I don't touch on those. But the main focus that I want you to do is to use the information that we're providing today to update your customers' ISTEP. And that's how we're going to know the specific models that will be used for the study. So this information is available in the lower left-hand corner of your screen to download, but it is also available from the EPIC partner guide. So it's under right now I'm on the full list of resources. And you can see hopefully you can see, maybe I need to zoom in a little bit, that I have the EPIC training models document uploaded under planning. And then the other item that we're going to cover today is the ISTEP. So those are both available in the program and the partner guide. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the document that just describes the different models. Okay, and so in this document, just a really brief overview of the activities. And one of the things that we added in here, just to help people better understand how people are referred to, directed to the different training providers, and then the different types of assessments and processes that take place once they're at the CBO, to best decide which training program that they're actually enrolled into. So the first 6 steps talk about what happens on the DHS side, where we do really simple initial assessments to help determine what program may be a good match for this customer. And then the second part of that is to really show that the CBO receives the person, and you do your initial assessments. And depending on your intake process for your agency or the program requirements, your processes are going to look a little bit differently. And in some cases, you may require more than 1 visit. In some, I believe at least one case, they have like 3 visits. And the types of assessments and what you do in advance, they're going to look a little bit differently. And again, it's just really based on your program model. And so one of the things that we're going to need to have is, that just clearly defined. And so whenever we come out for the TA visits or for, the monitoring visits, it's really important to have that information and have that all defined so that it's very clear to whoever's coming out to your location what type of assessments are in place and processes are in place to ensure that this person is going into the appropriate training program. So that's what is covered in that section. Now this looks a little complicated, but really what it boils down to is there are 3 models. We have the Model 1, which is a bridge, Model 2, which is blending adult ed with CTE, and then Model 3, which is more of like the in-house training or, working with training providers that maybe it might be a community college or other post-secondary credit-bearing program. So So what we have here is we understand that a person may go from like a Model 1 to Model 2 or Model 1 to Model 3. And again, the main difference here is, we have the adult ed component in Model 2. And so you don't really have to be like super concerned with all these little details about, the college, adult ed plus college credit, adult ed plus industry recognized credentials, adult ed only, work experience, and all these details. Just know that what we're going to do is use the different steps that are in the ISTEP to help with reporting all these little different pieces and parts to the evaluation team. So the other thing, there are a couple important parts on this in this document that, again, just want to make sure that you note that if you do select that the person is going to be having an EPIC training program step that says that it's the receiving college credit, it just needs to make sure that either that college credit is coming from the community college or, again, a post-secondary program that is credit-bearing. So that's really important. And then, again, if you're stating that a person is receiving training that results in an industry-recognized credential, it really does need to make sure that they have an industry-recognized credential. It's fine to have them receive other credentials. Maybe there's a certain type of credential that you offer specifically through your CBO or through your agency or something like that, or local, or but the main thing is that if we say they have an industry recognized credential, they really do need to be able to get an industry recognized credential.
So it's like the American Welding Society offers a welding credential. That's the kind of credential that we're talking about.
Yeah. And then you don't have to worry too much about this employed, not employed, because we are picking up on this. This basically boils down to, are they Category 1 or Category 2? That's just another factor that they're looking at within what the evaluation team is looking at. And we are picking this up off of their application. So you don't have to worry about indicating that as far as these models are concerned in that regard. Okay, so then this is also in the ISTEP instructions, but basically what this boils down to is there's different steps, and we're going to take a look at that in just a moment, on that you use to help identify if it's going to be Model 1 or Model 2. And so here's an example. So if you have a person that is in Model 1, you don't necessarily have to memorize that it's a Model 1, Model 2, Model 3, but just really, identifying what is that person doing. So one of the steps that we've added is raise your math and reading skills to 8.0 through a bridge program. So that's one of the steps. So if we know that a person has this step, then they are going to be counted as Model 1. So if they're Model 2B, then we'll know that because you're going to say that they've completed an EPIC training program for industry recognized credential, and also that's in combination with they attended adult educational literacy classes. So the combination of these two items lets us know that that is Model 2B. So again, you don't have to memorize the models, you just have to tell us what they're doing. Model 3B, they are in an EPIC training program, and they're earning industry recognized credential or certificate only, or credentials only. And so, again, don't have to memorize the model. We're going to pick it up based on what you put in the ISTEP. So we do have updated ISTEP instructions, and they're in their final proofing stage, so we'll probably update it again. But really, the document has stayed the same. If you don't already have it, highly recommend that you download it and take a look at it. Again, the ISTEP is still in the same place where we are taking a look at most of this. Let me scroll down here. Is in the academic and technical section, and you're going to add you're going to go academic and technical, you're going to add the activities. You can search in here for EPIC or Bridge program, and it's going to narrow the list of results so that you can easily select one of those steps and add it to the person's ISTEP. Okay, so pretty much all that information is basically to stay the same. And we have the actual steps. So again, if we have, notice it says that it has this bridge program, we're going to know it's Model 1.
Go back a page. So this is what we're expecting you guys to just kind of halfway look at. And DHS is going to actually be responsible for making this initial recommendation. But then after your assessments, if you're doing TABE testing, based on what you've discovered out of the TABE testing and what you set up as steps, the model may actually change.
Yep. So this is basically a simplified version of this table. And that's in the ISTEP instructions. And then, again, we have these are the different steps that are available in the ISTEP, and then you just add them. So let's take a look at what that looks like.
I've got it on my screen right here.
Okay, I do too.
Oh.
So another thing that I want to point out to you is that if you haven't noticed already, under dashboards, we do have an ISTEP dashboard that's available. And so I'm on test, so the numbers, will look different for your areas, of course. One of the things that we want you to do is, again, the yellow areas mean that we might need to have some action. All of these, personal development, career planning, academic and technical, those are directly related to the sections that are in the ISTEP. So you can see how many customers don't have any personal development steps identified for them. Maybe they don't need any, so it's not to say that that's a bad thing. It just might mean that they're good to go. They don't need any assistance with those items. Then we have career planning, and just as a reminder, because I'm not sure how much we've talked about this, but all of your customers are defaulted to on-track, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. They're defaulted to on-track. So the only time that they are ever marked as off-track is when either you or one of your staff with your training providers or somebody that has access to that customer or DHS has marked them as off-track. And that should be a huge red flag, because that took somebody's time and effort to go into that person's account and mark them as off-track. So it's real important to take a look at that and see if anybody's been marked as off-track, and to look at those case notes and see what's going on and what needs to occur to get them back on track. So then we have a target occupation selected, so you can enter that through the career planning section. And you can see if they don't have any steps identified. So again, it gives you a filtered list of those customers that don't have any steps identified. We have certain steps that are self-service steps, and then other ones that are staff-assisted. And for those that are familiar with the IWDS system, all these services that you see here are also directly related to the IWDS services, so that if this person is in IWDS and Illinois WorkNet, whenever you add these services into their ISTEP, it's going to update IWDS with those services as well. So they have, basic self-services, and then they have items that are marked as staff-assisted. So that's just kind of a side note for those that are familiar with the IWDS system. This first column here is the number of customers. And so you can see on each of these, which we have our headings as, well, let me go back up here. the first area are just a simple count of customers and the percentages of how many of those customers fall in that category for that section. And then on the right-hand side, we have total customers, and then we have the counts of steps, or the counts of each of these steps is also basically a service. So you can take a look at these and see how many customers have steps identified, but they haven't started those yet. And so you can see in this case we have 3 customers with a total of 6 steps that still need to be started. You can see how many customers have that type of step open and how many steps are open. And then you can see how many customers have a step that is still marked as open. They haven't gone in and marked it as complete yet, but it's already past the due date. So that might be fine. It might it's just easy to go in and click on that person and update that particular the status for those steps. Or it could be, we just need to extend the due date out a little bit further. And then you'll also have the visibility of if they successfully completed that step or if it's been unsuccessfully completed. And so this is, one of the questions is, well, what is unsuccessful completion? And I would say, maybe an unsuccessful completion would be as if they never passed the class, or they maybe went for a little while but never fully fulfilled the requirement for that step. Okay, so those are our columns: not started, open, open and past due, successful, non-successful completion. So again, you can have a quick glance for your area, where people are, and then also the quantity of services and steps that have been provided for those individuals. And then the academic and technical, and that's where we're going to find the steps that we're talking about specifically today related to the training program. So I'm just going to pick a person that doesn't have any steps identified. And then I'll go to their academic and technical, and I'm going to add the steps. So if I know that this person needs a bridge program, I mean, you can scroll down and look at all these if you want to, but you can also just do bridge. And you can see that there are 2 options that pop up. One, we have it broken out so they can tell reading, math, and then some that are the ESL. So if you need to add one or both of those, you could do that. And then you can see by this little check mark over on the left-hand side that one's already been added. So if I know this person needs a bridge program, but then they also are going to do like the college credit, I could just type in college, or if I wanted to make it more broad, I could just do EPIC, and I could see the different training programs that are available, specifically that I need to choose from for EPIC. So I could see the CTE college credit, I could see industry recognized credentials, or I could see work experience. One of the things that some of you already have is the complete EPIC training program. And that is fine because that is what we asked you to do, so that's great. But what we need to do on our side of it is to, run a report, see how many people have complete EPIC training program listed. And so we may be contacting you, or we will be contacting you, and to identify which one of these 3 is a better description for that training program that the person is in. So when you go through this process, don't select from today moving forward, don't select the complete EPIC training program, just the one without anything else behind it. Instead, choose one of the CTE, industry recognized, or work experience, and that will help us with, making sure that we can pull those numbers for the model. Okay.
While Natasha's showing you those steps, you can, for example, in the training, we're pretty much talking about the 5 or 7 steps that we've shown you. But in the career planning or in the personal development, if there is something that you guys do that we don't have represented there, all you have to do is send us some information and say, hey, we need this step added. So for example, I was speaking with somebody from one of the agencies in the past couple of days, and they said, we need mental health referral added. So I added mental health referral. So it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, and then for each of these, they use a common format. So one of the things I had mentioned off of the dashboard was this on track, off track. You can look at their timeline status on any of these and say that, you know, they're on track or off track, or if they have completed that particular section. But they're always going to be defaulted to the on track. Just as a reminder, too, once you add the step, then you can edit it, and you can add the, you know, maybe they just started it today, and you can add the due date. Maybe it's only a couple weeks. And you can add any notes, like bring a pen, I don't know. We'll take a look at that. And so just so you can see what the note looks like. So you can add in very specific notes. We also have added the option so that you can add credentials even while the status is open. So maybe they're earning credentials along the way, and it's not just once they have completed the ISTEP. I'm sorry, once they've completed that step. You can add credentials, so you can enter the credential information in. And then once you do that, you can add multiple credentials. So prior to this, let me just put something in here real quick.
You have your own school, Natasha?
Yeah, I do. So I could save it, and so I can see my due date. And then if I go into here, I can see that this person has earned a credential for this step, and then I can view the information or update it. So if I said, oh, darn it, you know, really it's this one, I can update it. And now I can see that this is the credential that is earned for the step one. I can add another one. So you can add multiple credentials for that step as you go along through the process. And then, you know, if you hover over the note, you can see the notes. So, you know, you can really customize this for the customer. Then the other thing that is kind of a cool thing about this is for the services and outcomes, you can see all of the list of services that are added for this customer. Now remember, I'm in test. So once you start looking at the services and outcomes, you'll see like this service list growing and growing and growing, and you're like, well, that's great, but where in the world is that in the ISTEP? If you click View Step, it'll take you to the ISTEP, and it highlights it and puts a star next to which step it's referring to. And the same thing with credentials. If I have my list of credentials that's growing, and I'm not sure if I got it in, you know, whichever one I got it in, I can click View Step, and it'll take me directly to that step in the ISTEP. And there was something else. Oh, another update. Okay, so here's a couple things. As they earn the credentials, or if there's anything specific that, you know, you just needed to provide evidence that they've completed it, remember you can upload the file and it can be saved, you know, especially if it's specifically to academic and technical stuff. You can add it to this tab by just uploading a document. and any of your uploaded documents, you can see a full summary of, any of the case notes and documents that have been added. And then another item that's out there is that we now have a summary of all the case notes. So whenever you go to, if you right now there's case notes in the profile page, the progress page, and the ISTEP, and sometimes you're like, where in the world did we write that case note? Now I can't remember. You can go to case notes, and it'll have, a listing of the case notes that are available, and then when it was, and then you can sort them as well. And then we also have a link to the assessment. So whenever a person has completed, any of these assessments, if whatever's saved in the system, they'll be able to view, you can view those assessments in the person's account.
Those are the ones that are on Illinois WorkNet currently. We don't have a spot yet for the TABE results.
Exactly. But we are working on the ability for you to enter assessment results. We're really interested, obviously, in the TABE, but we'll also have the flexibility of adding in other assessments. So in some places, they might use something like the NCRC or Skills USA or, something like that. You can add those assessment results in as well. And then for those that are interested in IWDS and populating IWDS, that will be used to also populate IWDS, just the same way that these services and credentials populate IWDS as well. Okay, that was a lot of information. Did I forget anything?
Yeah, this is Tammy. I'm sorry. And I just wanted to add, especially with the models, we've been collaborating with Illinois Community College Board, ICCB, specifically with their adult basic education and career and technical areas. So what we're developing here is something we're kind of trying to break down silos that we're all on the same page when we're looking at activities and services. So I don't want you to think that we're just designing this for EPIC. This is something that, is going to transcend to other programs. And, like I said, we're all trying to get on the same page when we're talking about specific services and activities. And even with the ISTEP is going to be something that will be used with WIOA programs. We're working on a Building Futures program for foster youth right now. That'll be used. So, this is, some of the tools we're using to basically break down the silos and have information shared between other programs besides just EPIC itself.
Right. Yeah, so when we do the dashboard on here, that's why we have it broken out into self-service staff and staff-assisted, because this is really going to be a global Illinois WorkNet tool that will be available to all Illinois WorkNet partners. And then access to specific customers will be based on, like what group you're in, and you have specific, like you would only have access to EPIC customers, other people wouldn't. So.
And then as far as regarding documentation, we will have monitoring. We're going to be having, an individual coming out and monitoring programmatically and physically all of your programs. So, obviously, there's going to be information that'll be, kept locally, for monitoring purposes. We're, discussing, too, what all we can put into the systems, to make a concise, consistent file for everybody. So even like supportive services, there's a supportive services document that's in the manual that can be used to document supportive services. If you have specific documents that you use locally, that's fine too for supportive services. But just keep in mind that information is something that will be looked at when, especially on monitoring visits when we're looking. Attendance records potentially, will be, looked at during monitoring records. Credentialing, we need to, look at credentialing and make sure that, that there is, good, acceptable credentials, that are being received from, the training institutions and everything too. So,
Natasha, show them the update tab.
In the regular,
in the resources, under their folder, under their agency.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, good point. Forgot about that. Okay. So a couple things. that have been added in your tab. We have the schedule. We had payroll upload, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the other things we had in particular, or what was needed, was for those, especially in the Chicago area, where you have staffing, right? Is that right? Staffing?
Yes, staffing.
And there's a 4333 and then a 4334, I believe. And the 4333, if I remember correctly, is a comprehensive list of people, whereas the 4334 is based on the individual. So we, had provided on the progress page where you could upload the 4334 documents, but we didn't. Obviously, you're not going to put, a document with everybody's name on it on their individual level. So what we did was we added an upload section. So if you hit upload file, you can choose a file and upload it at any time. And let's just pick one. And you can choose for it to be viewed by CBO, the agency people only, or you can make it available so that the CBO and the DHS staff can see this, and then you could put in, your description, and then upload the document. And so you'll be able to see, when it was uploaded. You can click on the document and open it, or you can, I got to move that out of the way. You can see who it's displayed to, CBO and DHS staff, or just the CBO only, and whatever description that you've entered, and who uploaded that document. So this way, if you have the 4333 document that you need to upload, you can upload it for your CBO, and the appropriate DHS staff will be able to view those 4333 forms. You can use it for more than just the 4333. And one of the things before it's released to production, I don't think they released it yet, but I know that Chris was going to update the upload file so that right now you'll notice that it's just showing all my PDFs. So you'll be able to upload, like an Excel file, a Word file, PNG, JPEG, those type of files. So if you wanted to put, I'm kind of just thinking out loud, if there's like a worksite agreement that you want to put out here, if there's, any like your grant information that you wanted to store out here with your agency information, that would be fine. The other option that we are still working on the worksite placement, and so we had hoped to be done by that, but things keep coming up here. So, so we are working on that. But if you have payroll that you would like to just put documentation into the system for it, you can, select payroll. You can put a start. You can put an end date, and you can download the payroll template, which will include a listing of your customers. Where did you go? Let me move it over. So you can see that you have the organization, and since we don't have the worksite and worksite name in the system yet, that'll be blank. But you'll have your other participant ID, their first name, their last four, their SSNs, and then the pay period, and you can put in the hours worked and the hourly wage. So if you wanted to use this, it is available for you to use. You could save the document, and you could upload it in your upload file area.
It's not on production yet, but we're hoping by the end of the day it will be.
Well, tomorrow. They'll probably do it later on tonight.
For those of you that had the Summer Youth Employment Program, it's going to be real similar to how you operated that as far as uploading the payroll and identifying your work sites.
Right.
So if you're familiar with that, this will be an easy transition for you guys.
Judith's asking if that's something that we must do, but it's more easy than if you're doing payroll for any of these people, it will be a requirement down the road. And if you are in Chicago, you do need to do the monthly staffings, and so that will require a 4333 and a 4334. So yes, you will need to do that.
And the payroll, once this is up and running, you will have to do the payroll in the system also.
Payroll will probably be under the payroll tab, though.
Yes, it'll be under the payroll tab. Correct. And that's just payroll. That's the youth. That's your youth or the participant wages. So when we're talking payroll, that's the work experience component of it. Is what you're going to be uploading under that payroll.
All right. Do we have any questions about anything that Natasha just showed you about the models, the ISTEP, any of that stuff? All right. No, you can't upload. Chris, you won't be able to upload to the CBOs. Only they can upload. And it's not available yet. It will be out in production probably by tomorrow. But you will be able to see them there. All right. Tammy, are you trying to share your screen?
I am trying to share my screen right now. Let me try this again. Share my screen. While I'm trying to get my screen up here, I'm wondering if this is creating issues here. I sent an email out to you guys this week regarding...
Pull it over to the side so that you can work on it over there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Regarding the cash requests and entering your costs. So if you did not participate in the webinar on July 6th, Sheila Sloan did that, and it's dealing with the GRS and reporting costs and requesting cash. Go into your resources and you can view that. The manual is out there also under your resources, so you can access that there too. My computer's doing some things here, so I'm just trying to see. But anyway, I sent an email out this week indicating that we are going to be doing the transfer from 16 to 17 state fiscal year. So you needed to get your cash request in by 4 o'clock today. If you haven't done that, there's going to be a period of shutdown that we're going to be going through. And I anticipate it'll be just the first part of August, mid to first part of August. We should be able to get cash requests moving again, though. So if you do have a cash request entered, I'll be looking at those tomorrow and approving cash requests. Now, I want to let you guys know that with your cash request, we take those, our accounting gets them once they're approved through programs, and then they have to submit that to DHS, and then DHS has a 48-hour turnaround period whether they have to approve it and then authorize the cash request back to our department. So if you're used to working like with WIOA, usually it's a relatively quick turnaround time. This will add a few more days, obviously, to that turnaround time. So it could be, it could be 5 to 10 business days by the time that you're actually able to, you see the cash, in your accounts from the controller's office. So I just want to make you aware of that there is, this process, there's a little bit more of a lag compared to like, a regular federally funded process like through WIOA. Then the other thing, and I cannot get my computer to share, unfortunately. I must have to do an upgrade. But the other thing is, come at the end of this month, there is the DGR, which is, sorry about that, there's a DGR that's due. It's the Department Grantee Report. That was the report that you guys submitted the first time, and we had to have that up and running for your grants to be approved and executed. That's due again at the end of this month. I'll be sending an email out with that report. If you've done reports with us before, it's very familiar. The first page is just an input page, and anything in yellow on the first page or the second page is where you enter your information. So I need to have that report, like I said, submitted again, and it's in your grant agreement by the end of this month, by July. This report will be changing in structure. We're starting to transition into the GATA requirements, and so probably by the time we have to do our next quarterly report, that report will look a lot different because we're going to have to comply with the GATA reporting requirements. But I just wanted to remind you guys that there is going to be a quarterly report due the end of this month that we need for you guys to get in. And those are the two main things I wanted to stress. The grants are up and running. You need to, the cash requests are available. We do have the shutdown period we're going through right now. You need to make sure you're putting your cost in. This first cash request, what we had, told you that you guys could do was we need all of your costs that have been incurred through the end of June, and then any projected funds you would need, for a month period for operations until you can do that next cash request in August. So that's what I'll be looking at when I'm approving the cash request. And then from here on out, it'll be on a reimbursement basis. So you'll have to report your cost, and then you can request cash based upon the costs that are reported in the GRS system. And those costs need to reflect your accounting system. So when we come out and monitor, we're going to be looking at, your general ledgers. You're going to be looking at your trial balance. And we're going to make sure that these costs are true costs and realized by this program. And I know it's a little difficult because of our categories. Our categories are training. 1,000 is admin, 2,000 is training, 3,000 is participant wages, 4,000 is support services, and 5,000 is career navigation. So like your career navigation would be a lot of your wages, your in-house wages and fringe benefits. Your training category, those costs probably in many cases are going to be your subcontracted costs with a community college or a training provider. If you're an in-house training facility, you'll have staffing and wages costs in those, but you have to be able to identify which of those costs are training-related costs compared to like career navigation costs or administration costs. So, obviously just keep that in mind as you're categorizing your costs in the GRS, that you're coding them correctly in the right areas based upon, the real services provided. So,
Tammy, those numbers in the directions?
Those numbers are actually in your grant contract, so it's in your contract that you receive back from us. And then we can post something on that too, obviously, in WorkNet. But that is information that is in your signed grant agreement with the Department of Commerce.
And then do you want to repeat those dates for the shutdown?
Well, they just have like about 8 minutes now to get their cash request in if they haven't already done them. So 7 minutes, yeah. They had until 4 o'clock today, and then I anticipate it'll be like maybe no more than a 2-week shutdown. So maybe mid, but the problem is that we just got a budget signed too, and the comptroller's office has to do this rollover. So it may be a little slower than it has been in past years because there's kind of a backlog at the comptroller's office right now also. So I would anticipate that you won't be able to get another cash request approved until maybe mid-August. So is there any questions on this? Still report costs? Yes, I do believe you can still report costs. Let me verify that, and I can send that back out to you guys on the cost side of it. I'll get back with you. I think you can, but I'm not going to state my life on that one.
Any other questions about that GRS or DGR quarterly report? When is the quarterly report due?
The quarterly report due is July 30th. And if you have your grant agreement, the report deliverable schedule is in the grant agreement. Once again, your grant is designed after the new GATA processes that we're going through. So it's not in the welcome package anymore. It is in the body of your grant agreement, and I can't remember. It's like article or attachment 40.1 or something, but it's towards the back of your grant agreement is a report deliverable schedule.
And that quarter is for April, May, and June.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. And do me a huge, huge favor on the report when you send it back. Huge favor. This is when you send it back. And I'll send this report out to you again. I'll have this with an email. It's the grant number, and then it's just DGR, and it's the quarter end date. So what you need to do is that first part of the file name needs to be a grant number, which is going to be 157620, and then whatever your two-digit number is, 0102, whatever your grant number is, and then DGR, and then the last part will be 06/30/2016. And that's the end of the quarter that it is. So please make sure that you name the file that, because it makes it much easier for when they come in, and then there's a lot of different things that are done with the file once they come in. So please adhere to those, the naming, that we have for these files.
All right, we've got a couple questions here. If you report GRS, GRS, do you just check off the box in the DGR stating you reported expenditures in GRS instead of filling out those fields on the DGR?
You still have to fill them out on the DGR. So go ahead and put that on and it's when you get this, it's highlighted in yellow. So you need to include that on the DGR also, the report.
All right, and then if you made an error in your cash request, how can you correct it?
Okay, with the errors in the cash request, and I guess I'm going to take a look at those tomorrow, and if you have something specific that needs to be changed based upon this first cash request, send me an email, and it's possible that I can make adjustments on my end of it as we're going through them and improving them on tomorrow. But in cash requests, if you make an error, I'm not specifically on the file. There are ways that you can go in and adjust those, like put a potentially negative as long as it has not been processed. You could potentially put a negative. But if you have a problem with it, just deal with me directly, and we'll take a look at it and see what actually needs to be done on that.
Somebody just typed F6 and re-enter.
And that's probably, the GRS side is something that I don't work with. F6 is void pending request.
Okay. And then just re-enter your amount.
And then just re-enter the amount.
But if they submitted it already,
well, if it's submitted and we've approved it, then that would be something that I'd have to check and see.
Well, and if they made an error, they can always plus or minus on the next one, can't they?
They could, yeah. And once we get rolling with this, like I said, right now is the only time that we're approving funds over what expenditures are. Once we get moving with this, it's on a reimbursement basis, so we'll be looking at your expenditures and improving cash requests based upon your expenditures.
All right. Any other questions about GRS, DGR? Any other questions about, we do have to come up with a process, and Chris, I'm kind of glad you're on the call, and you asked about this. Once a person is employed for 30 days, does that 2151A change? So we'll talk about this after the call and alert everybody next week. Because I do know that I was talking to somebody who has an employed individual that just got a job, so yay! But they haven't gotten to the 30-day mark yet. So we've got another week or so to be able to find out what they need to do. So we'll talk after the call to get those items squared away. My one last thing before I let everybody off the call, and it's 3:59. I'm going to start doing some marketing for you guys to try to get some more people the word. So I had put this poll question in here: what radio station or newspaper is in your area? And I see the Southtown Star. I don't know what town or what area that is, so if somebody could redo their answer for me, I would appreciate it. And then I also see WVON 1690 AM. I don't know what area that is. So if you could put that, and if anybody's on the call from Peoria or from Decatur, I need those areas too, because I'm going to reach out across the state. Is there a radio station in Galesburg that people listen to? So put that in that poll question for me, because that's where I'm going to pull all of the answers from to do my other additional research that I need to do.
And just to add to that, if you haven't gotten referrals, we're pushing a huge uptake in this. We have to get our numbers rolling here, and so if you haven't gotten referrals, don't totally freak out yet. They're going to be coming. We have especially in Chicago, we have a very high number that we have to serve. So one of our that's a huge effort of ours right now is to really get clients an uptake in the referral process and clients out to the field. Because obviously you guys need time on your end to do your assessments, get them enrolled in the program, and get training going. So you will definitely be seeing more individuals coming your way. And once again, this is a performance-based grant, and we anticipate your expenditures to be higher than earnings right now. But as the referral process increases and more clients are coming your way, that's all going to balance out as we're moving along. So, and we'll be keeping track of that too, how the referrals are going. And once, like I said, we only did 50% of your requests in these grants. We only put 50% of the money out. So as we see that areas are getting, to like close to 50% of their projected numbers, we'll be working with you guys to modify your grant agreements and add additional funds. Any other questions? Natasha, did you have anything else?
To answer Jonathan's question, we are going to be pushing more into some of the other offices. There is a decentralization process that will be taking place during the month of August. And so we will be expanding from 59th Street to 5 additional offices, and we will make sure that all of those offices have posters and flyers and the information. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about as I'm doing some of this outreach to some of the other areas. So hopefully we get that going for you. All right, anything else? I see a few people typing. We'll catch those questions in the end, but it's 4:02 now, so that's a good idea. Thanks for that suggestion, Phalanx. We'll talk to the bus company. All right, have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, everyone.